Okay. Good morning, Terry. How are you this morning?
Hey, Kevin, I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Can you believe we are, let's see, when did COVID lockdown start? In March. And here we are in late September.
And we are entering a second wave as well. At least that's what our politicians and
That's what they tell us.
like.
Yes.
Yep, yep.
And you're here, you've survived so far. How are your clients doing as a whole? What are you noticing with your clients?
It's been a struggle for a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients, where I focus in the area of mental health, a lot of mood disorders, a lot of personality disorders, and some people with both. They're really struggling. I think there's a real deep sense of COVID fatigue, and it
Wow.
wears on us. We're 6, 7 months into this now, and if everything they say is true, a lot of people are talking about we're going to be looking another 6, 7 months before we really maybe have a vaccine and we can see this thing to put it back into our history a little bit.
I think I agree. I'm seeing that with a lot of clients. It's just we just want this to go away, so
Yeah,
that we can just go back to normal living.
yeah. I especially feel for a lot of students right now, and teachers as well, and instructors and professors. We weren't meant to be really learning online and socially distanced and, isolated in our rooms at home, without getting out there and interacting with fellow students and people and conversations in hallways. That's the heart of who we are. We hunger for those types of connections.
Yeah.
We're relational beings. So the fatigue is this isolation, and we're seeing a lot of people who are breaking protocols because it's just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, when I think about the university students that are going back on campus, and some are getting in trouble, it's hard to blame them in some ways because we are social creatures. We're designed to be social, and yet they go back on campus or go back to residence, and they're supposed to stay in their rooms and just study in their laptops from there. It's hard to imagine. If I was a teenager or a 20 something again, I think I would have just as much difficulty with that.
Absolutely. You try to take as much of a non-judgmental stance around it, at
Yeah.
the same time wanting to convey some healthy, good wisdom. And yet, I think that wisdom has to have sort of a dialectical balance. It can't just be black or white. Um,
Yeah.
yes, we are needing to do some of that isolating. We need to be wearing our masks. These are important things. We try to take our lead from the specialists and the scientists, but yet at the same time, we also need to find some way of creating connection
Yeah.
and still somehow or another enjoying life and embracing this time, and maybe even finding some silver linings throughout all of this.
And building our own personal resilience too, our own strength, inner strength, so that we can um, deal with the fatigue
Absolutely.
in a more positive way. So we had some ideas that we thought it might be helpful for our viewers to take away some points on how to battle fatigue.
Absolutely. I often talk to my clients, and I've often used, what I call my big five.
Yeah.
And as we were dialoguing earlier, you said, well, there's a six that we need to add on to that. So, hang in there. Kevin
Yeah.
is going to tell us about number six, because I think
Woo.
I fully agree with them. I said, yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. It so fits in with what it means to be human. But my number one, and it's almost like you got to go to a therapist to hear this. Well, no,
Yeah.
you don't, because it's so common. We all know
Yeah.
it. We don't practice it well, and that is good sleep hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep is so central to our well-being, to our mental health, that we get to bed at a pretty decent time. We get our 7 to 9 hours of sleep consistently. We have quality sleep. We make our bedroom the most redemptive space in the house, if possible. The last thing you see before you close your eyes, the first thing you see in the morning. It's great to have that. We talk about, having the right lighting in the room, keeping, maybe the sheets nice and fresh from time to time, making your bed each day. There are just some really good practices. Don't take your cell phone to bed, right? Now, most people are going to hear that and go, yeah, I agree with that, and yet still take their cell phones to bed, right? Well, minimally use your blue light filter on there, or limit yourself, or put
Yeah.
a timeline on it. Okay, I will put it away at such and such a time. But work hard to create a good sleep hygiene. I read a book not too long ago, and I wish I could tell you the name of the author, but he talked about a keystone habit. And he said,
Yeah.
let's not try to change 20 habits or 10 habits or 5 habits. Sometimes if all we do is change one habit, a whole bunch of other habits fall into place.
There's a cascade effect.
You got it. And what is that habit that when you're doing it, helps you fulfill all the other habits? And I have found with many of my clients, at least, if they can get sleep hygiene down as a habit, it's amazing how many other things start to fall in place. Their diet changes, their exercise changes, their deportment changes. So many other things start to fall in place, and it helps them in terms of social life and connecting, and just because they are looking after themselves in terms of good sleep hygiene.
Would you recommend a routine, a pre-sleep routine?
Oh, yeah, if you can do it, and well, I think most of us can. For example, I'll tell a lot of my couples that I work with, hey, listen, do not introduce any big topic for discussion that may be contentious or difficult to process at least 2 hours before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
if you hit that, that's not when you want to start, or else you're going to be taking that to bed with you. You end up ruminating, and it's the rumination that often keeps a lot of people awake.
Yeah.
I try to encourage people the art of thinking about neutral thoughts. So for example, I do the alphabet thing where you go to bed and you just kind of go through the alphabet A to Z, and you just pick a category. It could be musical instruments, it could be capital cities, it could be, things you find in your kitchen. It doesn't matter what the category is. You just pick a very neutral category that doesn't have any inherent meaning.
Okay.
And you go through that, and very rarely will you get to the letter Z, right? Because you'll get stuck on a letter, you'll be thinking about it, next thing you know, you're waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's okay. The list has no inherent value, and that's why it works.
It's not emotionally draining to you.
You got it. What keeps us awake is that we get thoughts in our head and we ascribe meaning to them. And because we give them value and meaning, it keeps us awake, and it's hard to shut those down. So we have the capacity to mindfully transition our thinking, because we're not capable of actually multitasking. What a lot of people think of as multitasking actually is only the capacity to change between tasks quickly.
Multi-switching.
Right. So when you're thinking about A, you can't truly think about B. B may try to pop in there because our brains do that sometimes, but you can then say, okay, I'm not just going to put that on the shelf and just come back to A. Pick a neutral thought, focus on it. Don't make sure the thought has no meaning. And we find ourselves falling asleep a lot faster. That's one of the biggies for a lot of my clients. How do I fall asleep? Or I wake up at 2 a.m. and now my brain starts
it's racing. Yeah.
Right. Because our everydayness invades our sleep sometimes, especially if we haven't taken time during the day to sift through those complex and challenging matters. So I think another pre-sleep routine is that during your 8, 10, 12, 14, 16-hour day, that instead of, just go, one meeting, next meeting, next meeting, next meeting, and never stopping and thinking and sifting and processing some of the activities you're engaged in, is that you actually carve out little windows of time during the day to mindfully sift through those things. That way you're able to put them in their proper place. And then when it comes time to sleep, you don't have to try and process it then. Because our brains at a subconscious or an unconscious level, an implicit level, it's going to do a corporate takeover, right? And where does it do it? It does it while you're trying to fall asleep, right? But we can help manage that through good practices and rhythms. Sorry, that was a long answer. Sorry.
No, that's really good stuff. I feel like we could have a whole discussion simply on falling asleep and having good sleep.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add a few ideas to the schedule. Being aware of smells in your room. You know, if you do like nice candles or infuser, whatever those are called, is really nice.
Absolutely.
And then before you're falling asleep, think about what you're thankful for. And that's another mindfulness approach, isn't it? Being
Yep.
aware of the good things that are going on in your life so that you're not focusing on the negativity,
Yep.
I think can be really helpful as well too.
Absolutely. I love those.
Yeah.
And that's part of making your bedroom where you sleep the most redemptive and restorative space in your home.
Yeah. It's your
Yeah.
haven.
Yes. Yes. We often have our bedrooms as the messiest room in our house because we think that's the last room that anyone else is going to see.
Yeah.
But you see it.
Yeah.
And it's an important space. We
Right.
spend a lot of time in there.
Right. And so it's like it's putting a value of I am worth having this peaceful haven
Yes.
to retire to. I'm
Yes.
worth that. Yeah.
Let's move on beyond
Let's
sleep.
move on. Yeah, we're going to talk, I think, about diet and exercise too.
Oh,
Man, and exercise, I really believe is important because that helps you to sleep.
yes.
And you know, you talk about the cascade effect, is it the chicken or the egg? But when we eat well, we feel well. When we exercise well, we do well as well too. And exercise can be going for a walk, or it can also be getting your heart rate up. So I like to encourage my clients to make sure that they're getting their heart rate up. You want to increase it over 100 beats per minute. You want to put your body in a situation where it's becoming tired and the heart has been pumping for a while, because then that starts to pump out the good adrenaline, and you start to feel better, and all the chemicals that flood from your brain into your body, and you get energized.
Absolutely. I know that with exercise, it can be as effective, if not even more effective sometimes, as taking an antidepressant.
Yeah.
Right? Because exercise, especially if you get a decent 20 minutes in and you get your heart rate elevated a bit, your
Yeah.
brain begins to produce significant serotonin.
Yeah.
And when that is taken up and you get the cascade effect of that in your brain, you just feel better. You don't feel like doing it before you exercise quite often. Your emotions lie to you and say, no, just sit there and don't do anything,
Absolutely.
right? But we have to cognitively override our emotions sometimes, mind over mood, and just say, no, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
And invariably, the large percentage of people will tell you, I feel much better after I've exercised.
You almost never regret going for exercise.
Right.
Afterwards.
Yes. Yeah. Almost. Yeah. Unless you get yourself in a bike accident or something,
I mean,
right?
I don't know who would do that, but
No.
then, I still did not regret the ride. I just regretted the decision to trust the other driver.
Right.
But diet also is another really key part of this. When we're eating good, healthy foods, like
Yes.
whole foods, when we're eating fruits and vegetables and grains, and not relying so much on stimulants like soda pop, coffee, too much coffee, like a little bit of coffee is okay to get kick started in the morning,
I wore the shirt to match the cup a little.
Yeah. But we don't want to rely on those stimulants. But I tell my clients, eat to fuel up, not to fill up.
Right.
So when we think about our diet, are we using it to fuel up, fuel our body so that our body has the right type of energy to be able to do the things in the day that we require our body and our mind to do?
Absolutely. And we also know diet, as you've alluded to, helps, once again, serotonin, dopamine, noradrenaline, the three primary feel-good neurochemicals that we need to be producing in our brains to help elevate us and to help us feel better about life and our mood, and even to, look into the face of COVID and all the fatigue that goes with that and still be able to keep moving forward in a healthy way.
And this just kind of struck me as well too. Isn't there a beauty when you can cook yourself a really nice meal.
Oh,
You know, you plan something out and then you cook it, and it's not just the food value, but there's also the feelings that come with, I'm taking care of myself. I'm valuing myself enough that I'm going to cook something that I delight in, and then I'm going to sit down and not just like cram it all in and run to go do my next thing, but to savor. And I love that term, to savor the food, to savor life, to slow down, like you were alluding to earlier, to take the time to process, to take the time to enjoy your food.
absolutely. I often talk to my clients about that as a mindfulness activity.
Yeah.
You know, at the heart of mindfulness is the idea that you're fully present in the now. You're not in the past thinking about stuff that have happened or things
Yeah.
that might come back to haunt you. And you're not projecting yourself into some kind of future catastrophe and mind reading. You're fully present to the now. You're in the moment. And I can't think of too many things, you know, better than just cooking a beautiful meal,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're cutting into the peppers and the aromas and the colors and the textures and the flavors. And, just the experience of the cooking can be a very powerful mindfulness thing. And once again, if you're fully, into that, embedded yourself into that, marinating in that, you're not thinking about all these other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
now your world is this nice little place, this beautiful redemptive space. And then you get the great joy of sitting down and having that meal. And for some of us, we get to do that with some of our favorite people in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
our spouses, our children. And what a wonderful thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one.
Yes.
So the top three are almost always sleep, diet, exercise.
Yeah.
But I then go on to talk about what it means to have healthy social structures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably been one of the greatest challenges through these last 6 months. Often the number one, therapeutic challenges and strategies that we present with our clients is, what does it look like to get yourself out there and, socializing and connecting, making friends, how to build a healthy ecosystem, a circle of care around you of the right people, and making sure you're trying to find people in your life who are at least equally as functional as you, or even more functional, that might elevate you instead of people that pull you down. And now we're in a world that's basically, limiting a lot of that social interaction.
Yeah.
So coming up with creative ways to socialize, sort of like what we're doing. We're not sitting in the same room right this very moment,
Yeah.
right next to each other, talking about these things, which is probably 7 months ago is the way we would have done it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now we're sitting over a video trying to have this communication.
We have to adapt.
Absolutely. And hopefully that adapting doesn't become long-term permanent, but we do need to have some adaptable structures. Some way, we got to find ways to get out there. There's so many groups that are meeting online now
Yeah.
where you can have, 20, 30, 40 people in a Zoom meeting together. Or even if you're able to, in here in Canada now, it's starting to get a little cold, right? But still, people are meeting in larger outdoor spaces and trying to social distance and be responsible, but still having some human interaction.
Yeah. Just as an aside to that, I am starting to take clients back, and we're doing what we call face to face. But the ironic thing in this, in these day and times is we're both wearing face masks.
Oh,
So when you're wearing a mask, you're only seeing half the face, anyways. We're only seeing the eye. Where it's not really face to face; it's more like eye to eye. And yet here on video, we are actually able to see each other's face and see each other's facial cues and that sort of thing. So yeah, this has some strengths that even being face to face right now lacks.
yes, yes.
And I love sitting with my clients in the park on a park bench and having a chat, and going through things if that's appropriate. So spending time outside. Yeah, we do. I think there are other opportunities, other ways of socializing. We just have to be a little bit more creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So put your thinking hats on, come up with some ways, you know. There's wonderful stuff out there advising us on this, many other videos online that can give us some good ideas of how to do this.
Yeah.
While at the same time trying to respect, the greater process of, battling this pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Number 5, um, adaptable structures.
Adaptable structures.
And maybe it almost comes back to the whole sleep hygiene, because really when we talk about that, we're talking about instituting a healthy rhythm, a healthy structure, a healthy habit. But those structures now get to extend beyond just um, when we sleep and when we get up, but now structures around how we go about doing our work, how we go about doing our studies in school. And if you're not like working right now and you're not in school,
Mm-hmm.
it's really important not to allow the structures to slide,
Yeah.
right? So hygiene, rhythms of connecting with people, as we just talked about, rhythms of maybe finding an online class you can take.
Mm-hmm.
But we all need these structures in our lives. I have a structure in my life now of connecting with my family through family Zoom calls.
Yeah.
And we do that on a regular structured basis. And that has become really meaningful to me as well and valuable. What are some structures that you see wanting to make sure you build in?
Yeah, I think that for myself, I like to put things on the calendar, things that I look forward to,
Yes.
things that I can plan for. Um, so that's really important to me. Things like going out with friends to go do specific things. Within my family, we have the structure of when we're going to have dinner, or if we're going to watch something together on TV, if we're going to play games on Friday night. So we try to structure in some of these more pleasure times as well too, to enjoy each other, to enjoy our relationships. Um, yeah, the structure of going to sleep at night when you want to go to sleep. I try to get to sleep around 10:30. Not always
Yes.
not always successful with that, but having a schedule, a structure of when you are doing things, I found has been really helpful for our family.
When we don't have some of those rhythms and structures, it's very easy to fall into patterns of, playing video games for hours on end,
Yeah.
of, watching Netflix, binge watching. um,
Yeah.
and invariably at the end of those 5, 6, 7 hour sessions that some people do, you're just not feeling better about yourself. You're not feeling better
No,
about life,
really not. No.
right? And then we end up, scapegoating. Well, it's COVID, and um, it's too easy to have an external locus of control, which basically says, instead of having to look in the mirror and say, hey, I need to own my own life, I need to be responsible and make wise decisions for myself, even in the face of challenges. The person who has an external locus of control basically says, something, I have no control over this. It's everyone else, it's everything else,
Yeah.
and I'm powerless to do anything about it. But that's not true. We
No.
actually do have a lot of human agency. We can make decisions for ourselves to better ourselves, even in the face of things that we cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, we can't control everything, but not everything is out of our control.
Yeah.
The dialectic, there's a middle ground there, and embracing that which we can have a say in, let us make some really healthy, wise choices. I use a little acronym with my clients, comes from dialectical behavioral therapy called STOP, S-T-O-P.
Yeah.
S just stands for stop, T means take a breath, O means observe what's going on, and then P is plan and proceed.
Yeah.
And I had a client who was here yesterday, and he said, yeah, my P is plan and procrastinate, right? It's like, I can do everything, but when I get to the proceed part, I lock up and stuff, right? But find a way of putting a plan together that is within reasonable measures of your ability to do it.
Yeah.
At this point, and then you can build on that.
Yeah.
And kind of grow from there. So definitely we need to have those structures built in. If for no other reason, it keeps us from falling into some of those other very unhealthy habits that become life-sucking and draining for us.
The things that pull us in and suck us in and really take away a lot of our energy.
Yes.
And our enthusiasm.
Yes.
Well, here's one to build enthusiasm, creativity.
Number 6. That one's the one you introduced and said to me, and I said, oh.
And I think it's really important. And when I say creativity, people may think, well, I can't draw or I don't do music. But I truly believe that if you look around you, you are acting in a creative fashion in many ways. You just may not have that in your definition of what creativity is. So it could be how you've decided to set up your living room or your bedroom. It's how you cook your meal, how you put it on the plate. There's so many different ways that we are creative in a day, because creativity is really just making a choice to do something in a new way than what we're used to. And I don't even know if I like that definition, but creativity is creating something, doing something as an expression of your uniqueness.
Absolutely.
And so whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's drama, whether it's singing in the shower, there's all sorts of ways that we can express our creativity.
Yes. When I was talking to my clients this week, after we talked about some of this last week, I was using the word adventure with them. And this is so scientifically, valid. This goes back all the way to a gentleman by the name of John Bowlby. And, he came up with attachment theory. And part of that theory has, established that, even little babies, when they're able to crawl, they say they're sitting with mom, but if the door's open, they'll want to crawl outside the room because they want to adventure. They want to go mystery. And their head will turn back and kind of go, okay, is mom still there? Because they want the safe base. So we want the safety and the sense of belonging and home base, but we also want to be able to venture out and ask questions. What about? What if? What's around the corner? What's next? And recognizing, I think the last time we did a little video, I talked about the difference between life as a threshold and life as an opportunity. And the human spirit seeks out opportunity. We want to know where those 100 roads often go, and to give ourselves permission with, appropriate risk management in there, to say, let's venture, let's go find out. We need a little novelty, we need a little mystery in our lives, but we also need the knowledge that we have a safe place to return to at the end of the day. Right? Maybe once again, that bed, right? That bed, with good sleep hygiene. But we definitely need to cultivate, and what a wonderful time, especially for a lot of people who are not working in the same way and they are spending more time at home. Well, how do we become creative? It can be through music, it can be through art, but it can be through other means as well.
Going for a hike in the forest is just as creative or adventurous. Yes.
I had one client who's taken up archery during this time.
Yeah.
right? And I think that's pretty cool. And he was making his own bows. Even he's
Oh
been, you
yeah.
know,
Oh, he's
it's
really
just
getting creative now.
he's getting very creative. Another client has taken up go-karting, right?
Yeah.
And I love it. And I'm like, you know, things are like, hey, I've always wanted to do it, and so now
Yeah.
I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so as opposed to staying at home, once again, binge watching or playing video games, not as creative,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, because when you're doing, and I guess there might be a little bit of creativity within a game, but you're not given the same level of ability to, you can go places or do certain things within the game, but it's within the confines of what somebody else has already prescribed or created within that video game.
And there is nothing wrong with playing video games
Yeah,
when
no,
it's in
that's
its
not what we're.
proper place, when it's built into healthy rhythms and structures of life, right? But it can very easily, like many things can, turn into just a unhealthy coping mechanism whereby you're running away from dealing with our realities that we need to contend with,
So
right?
what about the person, Terry, that says, I don't have enough time to really do these things?
Oh, well, there, yeah, there's a dozen questions that I would have to ask on some of that. Um, I have clients, and for some people during this pandemic, their work has increased
Yeah,
just by virtue of the fields they are in and the type of work they do. They're
yeah,
working harder than they've ever worked to
yeah.
try and deal with these things. And I don't have time. I don't have time. Um, you know, I had a professor who once said that workaholism is the greatest form of laziness there is.
Hmm.
And that was Eugene Peterson. He passed away last year, but a great man. Uh, and when he went on to explain that, basically he was saying is that often in our work, we use it as a way of hiding from the more important things that we need to do. And it comes across like a great excuse. But in reality, it's us not being able to prioritize our life.
I think you're right. It is prioritization when it comes right down to it in the end. It's about making the things that are most important in our life the most important things,
Yes.
and not allowing the urgent, what they call it, the tyranny of the urgent to,
Yes.
to take over.
Yes. Yeah. So identify some of those key things. You can't do everything. No one can. But identify some of those key, you know, we talk about the big rock items, and that's an illustration for another video.
Hmm.
What are those big rock items that need to go in first before all the other little tiny things go in? Because if you fill your life up with the tiny things, you won't have room for the more important big things.
Yeah, love that illustration.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, what are those things? And then build your structures, build your rhythms, right? Build your sleep hygiene. You know, do your diet and exercise well, because that'll give you the extra energy and motivation to get out there and focus on the stuff that is most important in our lives.
right, right. So we'll just quickly review. We have sleep hygiene,
We have diet and exercise,
healthy social interactions,
adaptable structures.
and creativity and adventure.
Absolutely.
So if we install those into our life and we're more mindful of these key aspects of our life, then hopefully that fights the COVID fatigue
We will have a more fulfilling life.
in general.
Will we
With
have
or
a
without?
perfect life? No.
No.
But just because it can't be perfect doesn't mean we have to just tolerate some of the things we're dealing with. We can improve our lives.
Yeah.
And every day we wake up and say, how can this day be a little better? How can I improve this day? Right?
Right.
And I think your attitude of gratitude that you spoke of is also central to that. Giving thanks, even in the midst of the most difficult of circumstances.
Yeah. There's always something that we can be thankful for.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm thankful for you, my friend.
And I'm thankful for you too, Terry.
Okay.
That was good, man. And hopefully this video will help some other people and inspire some other people this week to adopt some of these strategies. Maybe all of them. Hopefully all of them.
Well,
Yeah.
We'll improve.
Hey, it's not like we've got it all figured out. We're on the
Oh,
process as well too. We're working.
I wrestle with these things myself.
Yes, yes, that's true. I do too.
Okay.
Okay,
Blessings, my friend.
blessings. Take care, and until we meet again.
Bye-bye.
Looking forward to it. Bye bye. And.